I've had my HasLab moment. What does that even mean? Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing something a little different, bit of a thought piece on something I was struggling with that had to do with toy buying recently. I thought I'd just talk it through with you guys. There's been a lot of talk recently about the rising costs of toy collecting. In the past several years, we've seen prices skyrocket, blamed on everything from the pandemic, the shipping crisis, oil prices, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, all kinds of different reasons given for why toys are costing more and more and more. And along with retail prices going up on smaller toys, we're now struggling with the prices on larger toys, be they pre-orders or the popular new crowdfunding method that some companies are using. What I've been thinking about recently is one of the big ticket toys that was recently announced. And I think as far as toys that are larger size and larger priced, we have to go back to 2013 with the Motu Classics Castle Grayskull. That Castle Grayskull was in my mind the first high-profile item that was crowdfunded, even though at the time Mattel did not call it crowdfunding. They simply said it was a pre-order, but it had to meet a minimum order quantity to go into production. Potato, potato. At the time, that Castle Grayskull was somewhere between $250 and $300, depending on when you ordered it. And of course, that succeeded. Then after Super 7 got the Motu license and continued with the Classics line, they went all out on the Classics Snake Mountain, which was, and I believe still is, the largest playset ever produced. That one came in at a whopping $600. And after that, of course, we have the launch of HasLab, with Hasbro crowdfunding these big-ticket dream items that supposedly would not be able to sell at retail. The first HasLab was Transformers Unicron, which came in at another pretty steep price, $575 US. Now we have multiple companies, Hasbro, Mattel, Super 7, regularly putting out large-priced items, either through crowdfunding or through a made-to-order pre-order. Recently, Super 7 announced a toy that caught my attention. It was an officially licensed 1974 version of Mechagodzilla that's being created for their Super Shogun series. The Super Shogun series being a spiritual successor to Mattel's Shogun Warriors line of the 1970s. And it's no secret that my favorite toy from that original 1970s line, in fact my favorite toy of all time, was the Shogun Warriors Godzilla. I've mentioned this on several different interviews with 2 Cents Toys and Grindhead Jim, Universal Toy Collector. Anytime I talk about my childhood toys, the Shogun Godzilla always comes up. That's why when I started my new collection in 2019, the first thing I purchased was this new version of Shogun Warriors Godzilla that was produced by Toynami. In addition to Godzilla, I also purchased this new version of Grandizer. In the 70s, Grandizer was part of the Shogun Warriors line that was produced by Mattel, but the giant version of Grandizer, the Jumbo Machinda, was only released in Europe, and it has remained a holy grail for Jumbo Machinda collectors in the US. Thanks to the Force 5 animated series that aired in the US in 1980, Grandizer became my favorite of the Shogun Warrior robots. And since this new version was available when I started collecting again in 2019, I purchased him as well. These two big guys represent the highest single-ticket prices I've paid for toys in my current collection. And in the case of both of them, it was because I had a strong attachment to both the characters and their original toys from my childhood. And that brings us around to that new Super Shogun Mechagodzilla. The Super Shogun line was started back in 2015 as a joint project between Funko and Super 7. At that time, they had only produced a couple of different figures based on Star Wars characters. Back in 2020, Super 7 relaunched the Super Shogun series by themselves without Funko's involvement, and their first release was a Jumbo Machinda version of Transformers Optimus Prime. About a year later, Mattel Creations got in on the act, seeing as they were the original toy company that produced the Shogun Warriors, and they released the Shogun Masters Skeletor. a stylized Shogun Warriors version of the Motu villain. Each of those releases at the time was a big ticket item, with the Super Shogun Optimus Prime clocking in at $350 and the Shogun Master Skeletor coming in at $300. In the near future, Super 7 will be producing a Megatron in that same scale to go along with the Optimus, while Mattel will be doing a He-Man. The Mechagodzilla version was revealed at New York Comic Con, and I have to say, to me, it looks great. It really gives you that old 1970s Shogun vibe, with the size and the firing missiles and the wheels on the feet, just like the Godzilla I had back then and just like this new Godzilla I have now. It would make a great companion piece for this Godzilla, but I had to stop short when I saw the price. $395, $45 more than the Super Shogun Optimus Prime, with the Prime actually being 2 inches taller than the Mechagodzilla. Now, I'm sure we could debate as to why there was a $45 price hike between the last release and this one. We can say it's inflation, oil prices, maybe licensing fees from Toho. They are reported to be quite expensive. But the fact is, no matter why the price hike occurred, it has been passed on to the consumer. And of course, I started the debate inside my own head as to how I could justify the purchase and how I could afford to pay for it. Do I put it on a credit card? Do I move some money around? I looked at the pre-orders I have in with Big Bad Toy Store currently. There are 16 items on pre-order, which equal the same amount as the one Shogun Mechagodzilla. So as I went through my thought process, besides the price, I thought about a few other things. Did I want the toy because I had a strong connection to a childhood memory? No, I didn't. There was no Mechagodzilla Shogun in the 70s that I missed out on. It would be a nice companion to the Godzilla I currently have, but it's not a toy that I have some kind of previous emotional attachment to. The other thing I looked at are recently announced large items that I am going to want in my collection. One of them being the Motu Origin Snake Mountain. That is going to be a large toy. I don't anticipate being the same price as the Mechagodzilla. Considering what Castle Grayskull sold for 2 years ago, I'm figuring somewhere under $200 for the Snake Mountain. But that's still a significant amount of money, especially when you're a collector like me who, one, owns a home, and there are bills to pay, especially with winter coming up, and two, I collect much more than Godzilla toys or Shogun toys. Much more. So it didn't make sense for me to financially put myself out on a limb for just one item. The other thing I thought about is one of my other favorite childhood toys that I don't have a new version of yet. And it's something I've mentioned also on a couple of different channels, and that's the Clash of the Titans Kraken. If you were to ask me what I most regret selling from my original collection, it would be my Clash of the Titans toys. I have a real affection for Ray Harryhausen films, and Clash of the Titans is the only proper toy line that's ever been done from a Harryhausen film. And that Kraken was a fantastic toy for its time, but very expensive to acquire these days. But it just so happens that new toy company Resurrection Toys is creating a new version of the Kraken. The Kraken is in the sculpting process right now. It has already gone up for pre-order, and I have already pre-ordered and paid for it. That new Kraken will be a large toy. It will be at least 15 inches tall, and the price of it was only 1/5 of what Super 7 is charging for that Shogun Mechagodzilla. So as far as getting a new big toy that I do have an emotional connection to from my childhood, that Kraken fits the bill. So with all those factors considered, I've decided to not buy the Super 7 Shogun Mechagodzilla. If somewhere in the future I found one on the secondary market for half that cost, then sure, I'd consider getting it. But right now, with the prices and the economy being the way it is, I have to be more selective in my spending. And I can't let FOMO, fear of missing out, rule my bank account. I'm sure there are folks out there that are going to order that figure and enjoy it, but for me, it's the wrong decision right now. And I think that's the best any collector can do. Take all the factors, both emotional and financial, into consideration, and make the best decision for you. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.